What's up, all you fanatics of the campus gridiron? Glad you could be with us for another edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Whether it's the TDs on and off the campus gridiron or the extra points during the recruiting wars, let's start gabbing. Welcome back, all you fanatics of the campus gridiron. Glad you could join us once again for another edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Of course, Mr. CeeLo. It's been a minute, you guys. It's just when you got football on top of football and you're trying to do these things, but you guys don't want to hear about those excuses. You want to hear about the grind. And you guys know what I'm here and I'm all about. I'm here talking about the final poll or the final selection before championship Saturday or championship weekend, so to speak, because we all know what the deal is this weekend, you guys. And I know I've let some of you guys down that are big time listeners of the channel, but I'm gonna do better. This is my first year, you guys, and I know you guys like me. When you get a great channel that you like, you want to stay listening to it. So it is up to me to make this work for you guys. So keep staying with me and stay patient, you guys. I'm bringing this content back. But if you guys just watched, it was a little bit ago, ESPN revealed the CFP's top 25. Of course, we're not here to talk about that. We're talking about the teams that have a shot at getting in when the selection committee makes its final decision Sunday. Now, let's run it down. You've got Georgia at number 1, whom, if the committee is keeping it real, Michigan should be in that spot. You know, you don't go number 3, beat the number 2 team in there, and you only move up one spot. Just saying, dog fans. Washington moves up 1 to number 3. Florida State goes up, gets back into the number 4 position, and then you have Oregon at number 5 and Ohio State number 6. I personally have a problem with this because Texas was overwhelming favorites and winners against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Now, my personal opinion, you should have Texas number 5, Oregon number 6, Ohio State number 7. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, they just beat the number. They lost to the number 3 team in a nail-biter in the Big House. Very true. But I will tell you this. I don't see Ohio State beating Texas. I don't. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put it out there. And a lot of people are going to say, well, they barely lost to Michigan. Well, here's the reality. Michigan has beaten Penn State and Ohio State. But outside of that, it's just kind of like, yeah. And then I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Texas walked into Tuscaloosa. Out of all the big wins, Oregon had a chance to secure that. Which is why I'm going to say, it's always funny that the team that is outside of the SEC has the one that has the rings to Alabama. Now, as far as Georgia goes, I was listening to Kirk Herbstreits and Joey Galloway say something, and I'm just going to say what it is. And I truly believe that, they're talking the scenario of Alabama beats Georgia. Does Alabama get in? No. Because here's the reality. I don't care when it was. Texas, Alabama met head-to-head. You cannot justify saying that a one-loss Texas team and a one-loss Alabama team that went head-to-head because this is what I say about this ultimately. People are going to say you can't do same old victories. I'm a firm believer. You do. And it's not because I can't stand the Bulldogs in the SEC. but it's the fact that there's so many times other teams and other conferences knock out zero-win undefeated teams, and they don't get to go anywhere. Perfect example, Utah knocked off USC last year. USC went bye-bye. Pac-12 had no representation. And then you get Herbstreits and Joey Galloway ganging up on was it McElroy? I think Greg McElroy. I think he made a very good point. He's like basically saying in a nutshell, what is the regular season if at the end of the season you're going to look at it and say, well, they're not one of the 4 best teams. Oh, because you're not recruiting well, or you don't have this. Like Florida State. Florida State finishes 13-0 if they beat Louisville. They're in. Ain't none of this whole talk. Texas lost to their rival, Oklahoma. Which sucks for them because, honestly, I look at this team and I'm just like, this team walked into Tuscaloosa with the swagger. They deserve to be one of the top 4 teams in the country. People talk about Oregon. Where's Oregon's marquee win? Granted, the Pac-12 is loaded. But I don't understand how the disrespect comes at Washington, but Oregon doesn't get the same kind of disrespect. Because I'll take Michael Penix Jr. over Bo Nix any day. I will. And we all know it takes a quarterback. And I'll be honest with you. Washington gets in this thing, it's going to be dangerous. Very dangerous for either one of these teams. I think Michigan's, they play more of a style, dynamic style, running-wise. They don't play a style that you particularly want to match up with. It's going to be interesting to see how Florida State comes out without Jordan Travis and that injury that really just changed the season. I mean, it's kind of one of those situations where, I'm watching this game. I initially didn't watch this game until I heard. I can't remember what game I was watching, but I remember thinking to myself, how did he get hurt against a walk-on unit? Honestly, that is the worst game to lose your guy in. I mean, this had to be just excruciating for the Seminoles. I mean, yeah, man. I really feel for Florida State because when you watch what this team was capable of and how they dismantled the LSU Tigers early in the year. And everybody's going to say, well, it was early in the year. I don't care when it was, people. I get so sick and tired of people saying, oh, it was early in the year, it was this, that, and the other. This is the same Florida State team that just totally took apart LSU. Now, this is the way it's supposed to look. Teams are supposed to get an idea of who you are. That's what great football programs do. They're not going to just sit there and walk all over you. And, let you walk all over them. We have to come to a sense of, I don't want to say intelligence because that's so cliche. But, let's look at it. Michigan beats Ohio State. And Georgia escapes Atlanta with a win over Tech. But you still keep them at number 1. And this committee talks about it understands value points. Stop. Georgia hasn't beaten anybody inside the top 10. Nobody. So we're discussing this. We're really discussing this. I'm telling you, the committee has its own way, and McElroy is absolutely right, even though he did say that he thought Alabama should get in if they beat Georgia. No. Texas has to be in first. I don't care what anybody says. Head-to-head is huge in my book. Texas not only beat Alabama. I want you people to remember. And Alabama stayed alive in this off of a miracle. And that's the thing. I will tell anybody. People will say, McElroy makes a good point. He thinks Ohio State should have been lower. And I agree. Ryan Day can sit here and spout off all he wants to. He had his opportunity. Granted, it was in the big house, but you have the best player in the country. Marvin Harrison Jr. And then you got Egbuka. Michigan don't have those type of receivers. Instead of running your mouth worrying about what's going on in South Bend, you should have been worrying about this. I told you guys, when he started spouting off, he's right here where he needs to be. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think the College Football Playoff Committee I'm not going to sit here and say I think. I know there's biasism. Texas should be the top one-loss team. Period. Regardless of what Oregon does to Washington, there's no way Oregon should be higher than Texas. Don't believe me? Well, let's see. Alabama lost this game in Tuscaloosa by 10 points. And honestly, it should have been uglier. It should have been uglier. No, I'm just going to call it what it was, because here's the reality. You don't remember? This is a long time ago, you guys. It's been a long time since I've been back with you. And the reality of it is, people, this game spelled a lot for the landscape. Granted, it was the second game of the year. A lot of people are going to say a lot has changed. But it really hasn't. Really hasn't. I mean, we can look at the schedules and we can say whatever we want. A resounding 57-7 win over Texas Tech at home. Then they had a 26-16 win at Ames, at Fort Worth. People are sitting there saying, "Oh, well, they skeeted by." Well, I mean, let's keep it real. Has Alabama had any resounding wins in anybody else's building? Let's look at the Ole Miss game. I mean, we can do this all day long. And I know what people are going to say. Well, why are we talking about this team? Why are we talking about this team? Well, because I get tired of hearing guys like the bald-headed wonder, Paul Feinbaum, who sits there and thinks he's a master and all he really watches is SEC football, thinks he understands the concept of it. And I'm not just trying to blast him, but I get tired of the whole narrative the SEC is the toughest conference when the Pac-12 clearly had the toughest conference. And not because of Deion. Deion's at the bottom, guys. So let's not try to paint a picture that is not even remotely accurate. But let's look at Alabama. I mean, you beat a Chattanooga team 66-10, and then you survived. I somehow managed to win the game against Auburn on a miraculous play. You really escaped LSU in your building. You did blow out Kentucky in their building. You beat Tennessee in your building. You escaped Arkansas in your building. You went into the 12th man in College Station and got a win. And yeah, like I said, it was a slugfest with Ole Miss, but you won 24-10. And you escaped South Florida. This is when you weren't even figured out yet. I do believe in you getting better, but you're not better than Texas. Texas beat you. But now, let's look back at Ohio State, and I agree with McElroy. I totally agree Ohio State should not be the 6th-ranked team. You didn't beat Michigan. You didn't. Only team that has a team on its resume that I respectfully look at, two teams. Florida State beat LSU when they were ranked in the top 10. Michigan beat a team when it was in the top 5. Let's even go and throw Washington in there. Top 5 victory. Top 10 victory. And has to play that team again. These other teams escaped what they have to go through. Whether it's even Georgia. That was like somebody asked on the show. I still think with that 29 game. Look, Georgia lost. If they lose this week, they're done. I don't care what anybody says. And Herbstreits and Joey Galloway are sitting here talking about you want the 4 best teams. Here's the reality. If you want the 4 best teams, you can take the 4 best teams, recruiting-wise, and let them play for it and just skip all the semantics. Let everybody else just play for the underneath cups. The whole point of you playing the season. Why is it they say play the games? You don't sit there and play the games and see who is left standing and then let's say, oh, well, they're the best team. Oh, well, they're the best team. I'm going to tell you right now, I think Texas is one of the top 4 teams in the country because they beat Bama and they beat them in their building. Georgia's schedule is sus. Because I'll go ahead and I'll tell you right now. I will go ahead and I will tell you right now. Let's look here. Let's look here. Let's look here, people. Everybody wants to sit here and they want to say, "Ooh, Georgia's won 29 in a row." Okay, but yet they want to discredit what teams like Texas has done, or even Washington. You know, you want to criticize what Florida State has done. Here's the reality. I remember Kirk Herbstreits saying they early on when Georgia was playing nobody. Well, they've really been a victim of circumstances. They can't help who they're playing. But yet, in the same breath, I'm hearing people say how Florida State's done this and they've done that. Listen, you escaped Mizzou in your building, 30-21. Okay, you dismantled Ole Miss in your building. Ole Miss is overrated. Badly overrated. Tennessee, you went into Knoxville, 38-10. Tennessee, overrated. And Georgia Tech gave you a battle. And I don't want to hear this, you're looking ahead. You lucked up. And that's part of it. But to sit there and say that you look at all the games, college football committee, stop lying. Because if that's the case, Michigan should be number 1. They knocked out the number 2 team. Somebody help me understand this. I'm not even a Michigan guy. Listen, I'm a Notre Dame guy. I hate Michigan, but Michigan deserved to be number 1. Call it college football favoritism. We're calling it like it is here over at Gridiron Gab Triple Option. The favoritism shows because here's the reality. You left Ohio State at the number 6 spot to compensate for Michigan being at number 2. Let's look at it. The best team in the Big 12 is ranked 7th. How come? They knocked off the SEC. The Big 12 is the biggest one that has the biggest gripe. Hearing guys like Paul Farnball, it's a travesty if the SEC gets left out. You were getting walloped by every conference early on in these interconference matchups. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You played a lot of cupcakes that boost your records up. Chattanooga? Really?
Bruh.
Let's not even go there. Most of your lower tier teams, or your bottom feeders, they get victories off of lower competition. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen across the board, but don't sit here and make it sound like you're this mighty, because Texas shut that up. Texas wasn't the only one that shut that up either. I mean, I'm just keeping it in perspective. Y'all sit here and act like y'all just this, that, and the other. And honestly, most of y'all laid claim to Alabama's success for years. And I'm just sitting here looking. Yes, Missouri had 2 losses, one to LSU. In their building. LSU, the last I checked, wasn't that damn good. I mean, let's look at them. And they are extremely overrated. I don't even want to get started on them. But the reality of it is we're sitting here trying to fix this mess. And it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. Because the reality of it is FSU blew out LSU 45-24. It was a beatdown. And it would have been 45-16. Yeah. If it weren't for a junk touchdown later on that Brian Kelly was trying to save his neck on, he just prettied up the score today. Did a little cosmetics on it. I'm not sold on LSU. They're ranked too high, just like any team in the SEC, like I've said before. And the reality of it is, Texas proved they should be higher than Oregon, Ohio State, and of course Alabama. Texas should be number 5. All you Longhorn fans, do your thing. Hook 'em horns. Because, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. You can't honestly sit there and say, okay, a win in the regular season. Then don't schedule any big-time games early then. It's like let's fast forward. I mean, it just seems like yesterday we were in week 0. Here we are now in week 14. Everybody's talking about, oh, well, that was so long ago. Teams have gotten better. Okay, great. then don't schedule these games on opening weekend. Don't schedule these games at all if they're going to matter. You're basically telling Texas, oh, that was a fluke. It's not Texas' fluke that they had it together in week 2. Is it? Is that what we're doing now? We're punishing teams that have teams with expectations better prepared. We're telling teams that are not supposed to win this game that are better prepared than the teams that are supposed to be prepared, i.e. Nick Saban, that they get punished because it's not deep into the season? Is that what we're doing here? Just let me know. Because I have a problem with what Joey Galloway said, and I have a problem with what Kirk Herbstreits said. You're sitting here talking about college playoffs, or, yeah, well, there are 19-point differences in the last couple of college semi-final games. Well, guess what? Guess freaking what? There are a lot of teams that come out hot and they finish with 3 losses. Maybe we should check them out, i.e. Notre Dame. They playing good football. I'm not going to throw them in there because guess what? They didn't finish the job. And I don't want to hear anybody in the comments saying, well, they lost to Ohio State, they lost to Louisville, and they lost to Clemson. Guess what? They said 4 best teams. How do you base that? You're going to sit here and say, oh, they lost 1 game in week 2. That doesn't count? What has Alabama done to show you that they're one of the top teams in the country? Just because they beat Georgia? Georgia ain't playing good football. They should have been the number 2 team, judging by the way they've weighted class everything out according to the last 2 weeks when they put Ohio State at number 2 and they put Georgia up there because Ohio State struggled and Georgia beat down some people. Michigan beat, I would say, a slightly overrated Ohio State team, but the committee ranked them number 2 and at number 1 at one point. Georgia struggled in Atlanta against Tech. Meanwhile, Michigan held off an Ohio State team which was ranked higher. So how does Michigan not jump Georgia? Going by the semantics of what the committee says. Just saying. Just saying. But overall, I think they got this one right. But what I'm bothered with is if we have chaos. And we're going to know. I ultimately think that they got the bottom 4 teams wrong. I think Texas needs to be the number 1 one-win team because of their resounding win over Alabama. Yes. And people sit there and say that they're not doing this and that. Quinn Ewers at one point was a Heisman frontrunner. I'm just going to keep it real. He's a frontrunner. And all of a sudden, he's falling off the wayside. But while we're doing this, we're going to look really quick, and I'm going to go over all of the games, you guys. I know you love this as much as I do. I'm sorry I haven't been able to get this great show out to you guys. But thank you for staying with me. Thank you for checking it out. Make sure you go to the Facebook and throw out what you think, who you think is going to win, and who's going to be Final Four teams. But we got Friday is going to be an awesome day. Undefeated Liberty plays at 4. And, of course, the big one is Washington and Oregon. This is going to be an awesome rematch. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be in Vegas, Allegiant Stadium, where the Raiders play. The professional team, that is. It's going to be interesting to see who travels. It's really going to be interesting. And then it goes Saturday at 4. You got the SEC title game. And you've got Saturday at 1, Texas, Oklahoma State. These are teams that can punch their tickets early. Michigan plays at 9. And they can go ahead and punch their tickets as well against Iowa. This game's in Indy, if I recall correctly. And I think resoundingly this is going to be one of those games where I think Iowa is built a lot like Michigan. Defensively, they just need to get some form of an offense. I mean, you look at their best player. These numbers are just horrible. I mean, these are just horrible. Iowa just has no offense. But they still manage to win games. So, but that's the reason why I just think this is not going to be a game. And Then we look at the game that could probably shake the landscape, and it's going to be if Florida State can't beat Louisville. Now, I'm not saying Louisville is going to. I'm not saying Louisville is going to win this game, but I will say this: if Florida State gets behind, if Florida State comes out and they get behind, because I honestly believe what's possibly going to happen is Louisville. I think what happened was Louisville looked past Kentucky when they got to a certain point, and they felt like this game was going to be a walkaway, and it was not. I mean, and it turned out to be more than they could handle, and they end up losing this game. But I think Florida State's going to figure out, hey, we can lean on Louisville. And Louisville's going to send 8, and we saw in the Notre Dame game, they sent 8, 9 guys. And, unfortunately, it didn't work in their favor. It worked in their favor that game. But it has not worked in their favor in their previous 2 losses. You can't just keep sending 8, 9 guys and hoping you can run gadget plays on offense and win. You have to have a semblance of a steady offense. But as I said, that Florida State game against North Alabama just really, you don't want to get. That's why it's imperative you don't get behind in games you're supposed to win. And Travis got hurt in that game, and it's unfortunate because honestly, I think Florida State's got a good unit, but Jordan Travis is in college football, if your best player is the quarterback, you have a great chance to do some great things. Not so much when he's not. Or when he's not there. But I ultimately think that Alabama upsets Georgia and they find themselves on the outside looking in. I believe Michigan wins their game. They punch their ticket and they'll be the number 1 seed. Then I look at Washington. Washington's the wild card because I still think they're that good. But I think them playing, in Seattle was the difference in that game. I really do. But I will say this. It is in Vegas. So I will say this. Bo Nix has not showed me enough to ensure that they can do anything because they haven't gotten everybody's best shot. And I'm just saying, I think ultimately Oregon has played some really good football, but at the same time, they've had some dogfights. And people will sit there and question whether or not they're for real or not, myself included. But I'm going to say that Washington punches its ticket. They take the number 2 seed. Florida State punches its ticket. And then this is where it gets interesting. People are going to say, well, Georgia should get back in. No. The team that should get back in this thing should be the Texas Longhorns. Not the Buckeyes, not the Crimson Tide. Because here's the reality. Texas is still the team that beat Alabama week 2 and gave us one of the best matchups of the year. But with that being said, you guys, I'm going to try to get you a couple of shows, follow up on the championship games and give you ideas and give you my perception and my preview of what I think is going to happen. You already heard who I think is going to punch their tickets and whatnot, so I'll leave you to your own devices. I know if you're going to say, oh no, you shouldn't tell us all, blah, 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 but hey, I want you to see why I think that. Listen to my analytic brain and go deep into the thought process of everything. But that's going to do it for us on this edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. I am Mr. CeeLo, you guys. Make sure you go to the Facebook page and check out the couple of polls that we're going to have up, as well as tell me who you think should get in if Chaos and who you think right now is supposed to be. Did they get it right? Do you agree with Kirk Herbstreit and Joey Galloway's perception, or do you believe with Greg McElroy's perception that teams that prove themselves should get in over teams that are just the better teams? But until the next time, when you're tailgating on that campus on a Saturday afternoons, remember, keep on gabbing.